Okay. Hare Krishna. So I'd like to thank everyone for coming this evening. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in online. We're trying to put all of our classes online now, so we're putting them on live Facebook. But after a couple of days, then we're uploading them to YouTube. So if you ever find that you cannot come along to the temple, then you can tune in on YouTube and see them afterwards. So we can begin with a little chanting. We're going to get Jayarada Madhava up here on the screen. I think it's already saved from previous weeks. Prema, would you be able to play the drum?
All right.
If you're busy just now, it's okay. Vishal can play it.
It's okay. You should play by now.
Not needed. Start with Vishal. Would you like to play some cartels? Don't worry too much about it. such a long way away. Come a little bit closer, I feel really disconnected from the audience. Come a bit closer. Come a bit closer. I don't advise you drag the bench though, Manoj, unless you've had your Weetabix this morning. That's better. Okay, so tonight we're continuing with the theme of the soul and transmigration, and we're going to be reading from chapter 8, text 5. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so if everyone would like to repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 As if by magic, we have it on the screen. Thanks for sharing. Antakale cha mam eva Antakale cha mam eva Smaran Muktva Kalevaram Smaran Muktva Kalevaram Ya Prayati Sa Madbhavam Ya Prayati Samadbhavam Yati Nasti Atra Samshaya Yati Nastyatra Samshaya Antakale Chamam Eva Smaran Muktva Kalevadam Ya Prayati Samadbhavam Yati Nastyatra Samshaya Antakale Chamam Eva Smaran Muktva Kalevadam Ya Prayati Samadbhavam Yati Nastyatra Samshaya Antakale Chamam Eva Smaran Muktva Kalevadam Ya Prayati Samadbhavam Yati Nastyatra Samshaya Produce
Antakale chamam eva
Antakale Chamam Eva
Smaran Muktya Kalevaram
Smaran Muktva Kalevaram
Ya Prayati Samadbhavam
Ya Prayati Samadbhavam
Yati Nasti Atra Samsaya
Yati Nastyatra Samshaya
Antakale chamam evam
Antakale Chamam Eva
Smaranam Muktva Kalevaram
Smaran Muktva Kalevaram
Yaprayati Samadbhavam
Ya Prayati Samadbhavam
Yadi Nasti Atra Samsayam
Yati Nastyatra Samshaya. Very good.
Antakale chamameva
Antakale Chamam Eva Smaran Muktva Kalevaram
Yah Prayati Samadbhavam
Ya Prayati Samadbhavam
Yati Nasti
yati nastyatra samshaya.
Antakale cha mameva.
Antakale cha mameva. Smaranukva kalevaram.
Yapayati samadbhavam.
Yapayati samadbhavam. Yati nastyatra samshaya. Antakale. At the end of life.
At the end of life.
Cha. Also. Mam. Me. Eva. Certainly. Smaran. Remembering. Uktva. Quitting. Kalevaram. The body. Ya. He who. Prayati. Goes. Sa. He. Matpavam. My nature. Yati. Achieves. Na. Not. Asti. There is. Atra. Here. Samshaya. Doubt. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Please repeat. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Purport. In this verse, the importance of Krishna consciousness is stressed. Anyone who quits his body in Krishna consciousness is at once transferred to the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the purest of the pure. Therefore, anyone who is constantly Krishna conscious is also the purest of the pure. The word smaran, remembering, is important. Remembrance of Krishna is not possible for the impure soul who has not practiced Krishna consciousness in devotional service. Therefore, one should practice Krishna consciousness from the very beginning of life. If one wants to achieve success at the end of his life, the process of remembering Krishna is essential. Therefore, one should constantly, incessantly chant the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare. Lord Caitanya has advised that one be as tolerant as a tree. Taro iva sahishnuna. There may be so many impediments for a person who is chanting Hare Krishna. Nonetheless, tolerating all these impediments, one should continue to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare. So at the end of one's life, one can have the full benefit of Krishna consciousness. Om Jnana Timidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Caitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadanayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Tamascha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vanchakapatubhyascha Kripasindhubhyevacha Patitanam Bhavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hands up. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam, pandam langayate, Guru yat kripatamaham vande, Shri Guru Dinacharanam. And whoever, at the end of his life, quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Actually, this is one of my favourite purports by Srila Prabhupada. It's actually Srila Prabhupada put everything into his purports. You know, sometimes you can read Prabhupada's purports again and again and again, and every time you read it, you get something new. But I really like this part of the purport. This purport. There's one point particularly that I like. When Prabhupada says that therefore one should constantly, incessantly chant the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I like this constant, incessant chanting. Because sometimes when we're chanting Hare Krishna, personally speaking, I chant on my japa beats in the morning, or at different points in the day. And sometimes I think that once I've finished chanting on my rounds, my prescribed number of rounds, 16 rounds, then I don't need to chant anymore. But actually, the point is we have to constantly and incessantly. Actually, if anyone's got a phone on them, can they look up what is the meaning of incessant? The dictionary definition. Someone look that up. That would be interesting. And then Prabhupada says, afterwards, he says there may be so many impediments for a person who is chanting Hare Krishna. Nonetheless, tolerating all these impediments, one should continue to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I like the way Prabhupada, it's just a short purport, but Prabhupada, he recites the whole Maha Mantra twice. Prabhupada was really trying to get his point across. So we have the dictionary definition of it, incessant.
Yes. It says constantly, continually, all the time, non-stop, without stopping, without a break, interminably, unremittingly, round the clock, ceaselessly, endlessly, without cessation.
So just see, Prabhupada chooses his words so carefully. So say those again. Let's listen in a loud, clear voice so everyone watching online can hear it as well. This is the dictionary definition of incessant. Okay, take it away again.
It's without interruption, constantly, all the time, non-stop, without stopping, without a break, interminably and unremittingly, round the clock, ceaselessly, endlessly.
So just see, that's what incessant means. Actually, one time Prabhupada said that we should chant Hare Krishna 25 hours a day. 25 hours a day? How is that possible? And Prabhupada said yes, because actually when we have a taste for chanting Hare Krishna, there are not enough hours in the day. Rupa Goswami, who used to pray, he said that I only have 2 ears and I only have 1 tongue. He said, I wished I had millions of ears and I wished I had millions of tongues so that I could hear and chant Hare Krishna more and more and more. So we should chant round the clock, incessantly, without interruption. So there may be so many impediments as well. Anyway, I don't want to get too strayed from where I'm going with the class. We can come to some of these points later. Try and find out what are some of our impediments. But anyway, at the beginning of the purport, Prabhupada says the importance of Krishna consciousness is stressed. So why is the importance of Krishna consciousness stressed? Looked like you were going to say something there. Antonella.
I am thinking.
Well, what is Krishna saying in this Bhagavad Gita verse that we're actually... What does Krishna say? What is the verse?
like what you're doing throughout the life, and then that is what you remember at the end. And what you remember at the end, that's what, then you go back to him, he said.
Yeah, Krishna says, and whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. So therefore the point is that if you're Krishna conscious at the time of death, then you go back to the spiritual world where life is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. As opposed to being in the material world, which is temporary, it is full of ignorance and full of suffering. You only have to put on the news to see how much suffering there is. Just think of all of the terrible things that have been going on in the world and down in London. But if one remembers Krishna at the time of death, one goes back home, back to Godhead, where life is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. So therefore, actually, this is the goal of life. You know, if you ask someone, what is your goal in life? I'm sure if we went, you know, there are many people who do like YouTube vlogs. Who's heard of vloggers? Who can tell me what a vlogger is? Andrea?
Video blogger?
Yeah, it's a video blogger, right? And you can pretty much type anything into YouTube nowadays. Yesterday I came across something on YouTube and it was a lady, she was asking other ladies what they find attractive in a man, you know? And, you know, then they do all these different types. Were you going to say what you find attractive in a man there, Andrea? Everything that's there in stature. And she was asking all these different things, you know, do you find chest hair attractive and all these different things. Anyway, we don't want to get too sidetracked, but I imagine if you went out, you could do a vlog of this. What is the goal of life? And I think you would get so many different ideas. But actually, it's not just like one of them would be, you know, live fast, die young. That was the motto after the Second World War. Because at this point then, nuclear weapons had been used. So people thought that at any time the world would end, Armageddon was going to come, and therefore, you know, you might as well enjoy yourself now. Have you ever heard that expression? You only live once. You only live once. Well, dun, 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 dun. Actually, at the time of death, you realise you don't only live once. So live fast, die young. So another one is the philosophy of mammon, which is to eat, drink and be merry. Right? That's the common goal of life. But actually, according to Krishna's teachings in the Bhagavad Gita, and according to the Vedic understanding, the goal of life is actually to utilize this human form of life to reawaken our dormant spiritual nature and go back to Krishna at the end of this life. So in the Vedic system, there's 4 goals of life. Does anyone know what are the 4 goals of life according to the Vedic system? I'll give you the first one. The first one's, Indira. What are the 4 goals?
Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha.
Very good. Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. These are called the Purusharthas. So Dharma means religiosity. We should be religious. And then next comes Artha, which means economic development. So the idea, according to the Vedic system, is that if we follow a religious life, then the demigods will be pleased with us, and therefore we will get material prosperity, economic development, like that. By being religious, we'll be economically situated, and then why do you want to have goods? Why do you want to have, be well situated economically? Why do you want to have good wealth? What do you want to do with your wealth?
A wife.
What's that? Get a wife.
A wife.
Get a wife. Yeah, well, yeah, if you've got a wife, you need a lot of money to keep her happy. Because anyway, the idea is that next comes karma, which means sense gratification. In other words, to enjoy our senses, we need to have money, we need to have wealth. But then, when one's enjoyed their senses too much I am enjoying, what happens then?
You get fed up.
You get fed up, yeah. You think, there's got to be more to life than this. So therefore, when we're young, and our senses are really we just think we can enjoy unlimitedly. But as we get older, and the body doesn't work so well anymore, you realise, actually, I can't enjoy unlimitedly. My senses aren't so good anymore. We get diseased, we get old, we dwindle like this. So therefore, then one wants moksha. What does moksha mean? Liberation. Yeah, we want to be liberated from the material world in general. We want to be liberated from material unhappiness. We want to be free from the modes of material nature. Dharma, artha, karma, and moksha. These are the purusharthas. But Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave one extra goal, the fifth goal of life, which is called Prema Pumata Mahan, which means pure love of God. And this is the real goal. Artha means like the necessities. So when you have the Purusharthas, it's these four necessities in life. But the real necessity for all of us is actually to reawaken our eternal love for Krishna, to awaken our eternal love for God, because this is the only thing that's going to fully satisfy us. In the Srimad Bhagavatam it says, Savai Pumsam Paro Dharmo Yato Bhaktira Doksajane Ahoitaki Apati Yata Yayatma Suprasiti. Thank you, dear. So it says that the supreme occupation for everyone is to engage in devotional service to the Lord, which is unmotivated and uninterrupted, and this will bring complete satisfaction to the self. So therefore the goal of life is to reawaken our eternal love for God and conquer the repetition of birth and death, to conquer the repetition of samsara. So therefore, in the Vedic times, when the sages, they would meet each other, they wouldn't say, how's it going? Like, how do we greet each other? We say, what do people say in Newcastle to greet each other? Why I, man. Yeah, we say like, how's it going? How are you? You know, what are you up to? Something like that. But in the Vedic society, they would say, Ihishitam yat punajanma jayaya, which means, is everything going well in your endeavour to conquer the repetition of birth and death? So when you meet your friends tomorrow, when you get on the bus, then you see the bus driver, you say, Ihishitam yat punajanma jayaya. Is everything going well in your endeavour to conquer the repetition of birth and death? And then the bus driver will say, no, I didn't chant very good rounds this morning. I'm in Maya. Because the understanding was that, yes, you know, we have certain goals in life, we have dharma, artha, karma, and moksha, but the real goal of life was to conquer the repetition of birth and death. So we often give the example that when you're in an airport, like when you go to the airport, what do you do? Like for instance, you have to be there 2 hours beforehand in the airport. So what do you do with your time in the airport? Shopping, yeah. Where do we shop? In the duty free, because you might get some bargains. Actually, people seem to go for the same things in duty frees. It's either fags, right, cigarettes. People come back with like hundreds of fags. Another thing is perfume, right? And then the other thing is a giant Toblerone. For some reason, they always seem to think you're going to want to buy a Toblerone, so they have these giant Toblerones. Once I bought an iPod, actually, in the duty-free. It was cheaper. It was a lot cheaper there. So when we're in the airport, we go shopping in the duty-free. But do you forget to catch the plane? Do you get so carried away with the shopping and you think, I'm not going to bother catching the plane? Who's ever missed their plane because they were doing too much shopping in the duty-free? No, you don't forget to catch the plane, do you? You've spent hundreds of pounds. You're looking forward all year to go on holiday, right? You work for 52 weeks of the year, or you work for 50 weeks of the year to get your 2 weeks annual summer holidays in the sun. Because we don't get much sun here in England. We had a heat wave on Sunday. Who was at the Rath Yatra in London? Put your hands up. It was 35 degrees. We had a heat wave for like 2 or 3 days, and then that's it. And now we're back to, raining and windy and cold again.
As usual.
Yeah, as usual. So therefore, you don't forget to catch the plane. That's the main reason that you're there. So in life, we have these other goals, dharma, artha, karma, moksha. We have to look after this material body, but that's not the main goal of life. The main goal of life is prema pumata mahan, to reawaken your dormant spiritual nature, to reawaken your eternal loving relationship with Krishna. Because this is the thing that's actually going to bring us true satisfaction. So therefore the main goal in life is to be Krishna conscious. Therefore Prabhupada said, in this verse, the importance of Krishna consciousness is stressed. Smartavya satatam Vishnu, Vishmatavyam najantuchit, sarve vidi nishedashur, etaya evakimikara. This is the essence of Krishna consciousness. If you don't remember anything from this class, then just remember this verse. So this verse says that there are two things which are very important. We should always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. And it said that all the different rules and regulations in the Shastra, in the scriptures, are just to help us to do these two things. So the first one is always remember Krishna, and the second one is never forget. My spiritual master was saying that one time he was in a temple in Australia, and this boy walked towards him and he had a t-shirt on the front it said, always remember Krishna. And he thought, that looks like a really cool t-shirt, I'd like to have that. And then the guy walked on, and then on the back it said, and never forget Krishna. He thought, that's a really cool t-shirt.
What's the difference?
Well, it's like, for one thing, if you're always remembering Krishna, you could say you are never forgetting Krishna. But it's like, it's like keeping it, it's like stressing it. You know what I mean? It's like stressing it. Like in this verse, Harinama, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nasjeva, 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 Gatira Gita. It's repeated 3 times. In the age of Kali, we should chant the holy names, chant the holy names, chant the holy names. Then Nasjeva, Nasjeva, Nasjeva. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. So it's kind of like, it's extra stress. Always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So this is the most important thing. Always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. And especially at the time of death. This is the most important time to remember Krishna. And what is the easiest way to remember Krishna? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So if we're constantly, incessantly chanting the Maha Mantra, like we heard the definition at the start of the class, round the clock, you'll find it very hard to forget Krishna. You'll find that you will always remember Krishna. If you really take chanting Hare Krishna seriously, there's 2 main ways to chant Hare Krishna. One is with instruments. This is kirtan or sankirtan, and the other way is on japamala. We chant on beads. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we practice taking shelter of Krishna in the form of his holy name, so that at the time of death, we will be able to remember Krishna. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that all of our bhajan will be tested at the time of death. So I'll give you an analogy. Who here is studying, or at some point has studied for some exams? Put your hands up. So let's say for instance you go to university. So generally we go to university for 3 years. And throughout those 3 years, we have to go to lectures, we have to go to seminars. I won't ask if anyone actually did. I was a student myself. Being a student is kind of like a euphemism for just, partying. At least in my experience it was. But, we go to lectures, we go to seminars, and then you also have little tests throughout the year. But then, what is the main point? The main point is that you have your finals. Like many students, they've just finished their final exams. So, you could say that all of those different lectures and seminars that you go to, and the little tests that we do throughout the year are to make sure we're going to pass the final test. Right? What is the point in going to all your lectures and all your seminars and handing in all your coursework if you don't go to the final test? But I'll let you into a secret. We're all going to have to face the final test You can't escape it. Like if you go to university, you may say, I'm not going to go to my final exams. But actually, you cannot miss the final exam of death. This is what we're trying to say, is that life is a preparation for death. Ultimately. This is the main point. So therefore, we're practicing Krishna consciousness throughout our life so that at the time of death we're practiced to remember Krishna. Because actually it's not so easy to remember Krishna at the time of death. Prabhupada says in the purport, to remember Krishna at the time of death is not possible for an impure soul who has not practiced Krishna consciousness before. So sometimes we think, well, I'll take spiritual life more seriously when I get older. Who's ever thought that before? Just like, we have that expression, diet starts Monday. Diet starts Monday. Like myself, growing up, I've always been tall and skinny. But it comes a certain point in life when your metabolism slows down, and I could eat anything. And I was just always skinny, but in the last couple of years, I've noticed that actually I'm starting to put on a little bit of weight, starting to get a bit of a belly. And, and now I'm starting to look at it now, I'm thinking, actually, this isn't going to go away unless I do something about it. Unless I start to watch what I eat, unless I start to do some exercise. But it's hard. We think, okay, diet starts Monday. So sometimes like that in spiritual life, we think, I'll be more serious next week. There's this party I've got to go to this week, or, I want to do this or that, I'll be more serious next week, or I'll take it more seriously when I get older. But actually Prahlad Maharaj, he was 5 years old and he was preaching to his friends at school. They were 5 years old. And what do 5-year-olds like to do? You just like to play, right? I remember when I was young, when it came to the school holidays, those 6 weeks I just used to play football every day, all day long, from morning till night, And those 6 weeks holidays that you were just looking forward to those so you could just enjoy yourself. You don't have any cares in the world, no responsibilities. You just like to play. So Prahlad Maharaj was saying to his classmates during playtime, and he was preaching to them, you should take to Krishna consciousness. Now is the time to take to Krishna consciousness. You should chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. They said, Prahlad, we're just young boys, give us a break. We're 5 years old, we just want to play. They said, spiritual life is for old people. So Prahlad Maharaj, he said, what is an old person? They said, well, an old person is someone who is about to die. So Prahlad Maharaj, he said, do young children not die sometimes? Do babies not die sometimes? Do teenagers not die sometimes? He said, therefore, if you die tomorrow, that means you're old today. So therefore, he said, we should practice Krishna consciousness now, because we don't know how long we have to live. So therefore, we should practice every day, so that when we face the final exam, when we actually face the time of death, we're practiced to take shelter of Krishna. In other words, at the time of death, the mind is looking for some comfort. It's looking for something to take comfort in. So that may be, maybe it's your wife or your husband or your children you're thinking about at the time of death. Maybe you're thinking about some memories, when, your childhood, when you were growing up. Maybe you're thinking about your house. I've worked so hard to buy my house and build up. Maybe you're thinking about your friends or your family. But if you're thinking of anything other than Krishna, you have to take birth again in this material world. If you're a husband thinking of your wife, then you'll take birth again in this material world as a woman. If you're a wife thinking of your husband, you'll take birth in this world as a man. Maybe not even a human body, maybe a male cat. Maybe, if you're thinking of your house at the time of death, oh, I've worked so hard, I can't leave this house. You may take birth as a cockroach in that very same house. Because Krishna says here, it's true. Krishna says in the next verse, 8.6, he says, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. So whatever you're thinking about at the time of death, that's what you're going to attain in your next life. So if you're thinking about Krishna at the time of death, then you go back to Krishna. So we have to practice now. So, because the thing is, you cannot cheat death. You cannot cheat death. Like the ancient Egyptians, they tried to cheat death. When they buried the pharaohs, they buried them with all their treasures. And the idea was that they could take those with them to their next life. And, in this life, what do we do to try? We take out life insurance. Or a more apt term is death insurance. Isn't it? If we die, we pay so much money every month for life insurance, so at the time of death, our children or our family, they'll get our wealth. Because we cannot take that wealth with us. There is a story of someone who tried to cheat death, actually. There's two famous stories that Prabhupada used to tell. Who would like to hear a story?
Yes.
Okay. So there was one sculptor. He was a very expert sculptor, and whatever he sculpted, it looked just so lifelike, so that he would see, you would see the sculpture and you think it was lifelike. He would sculpture an elephant and you would think it was a real elephant. It was so perfect. So he had an idea. He went to an astrologer to find out the time of his death. And the astrologer said, yes, you have, 5 years left, 3 months, 2 days, 5 hours, 3 minutes, and 2 seconds. 1 second. So he thought, okay, so what I'm going to do is, so what he did was he sculpted 10 different models of himself in different poses, doing different things like this. So that when Yamaraj came at the time of death, because there are people dying in this world every second. Actually, one time, Yudhishthira Maharaj, he was asked what is the most amazing thing. And he said, Ahanyahani bhutani gachantiha yamamyam sheshastadamichanti kim aischaryamatapram. He said, every second, hundreds of millions of living entities are dying. He said, but those people who remain here, out of all of those people, no one thinks that they will die. He said, what can be more amazing than this? And it's a fact, isn't it? We're surrounded by death, but we don't think we're going to die. Even in Krishna consciousness. So, because there are hundreds of millions of living entities dying at every moment, Yamaraj, he comes for them at the time of death. He's the Lord of Death. And he takes them on to the next destination. So he doesn't have long, when Yamaraj comes, he has to go. He's a busy man. So Yamaraj came and he saw these 10 sculptures. And then he thought, he became bewildered. He thought, which one is Sailesh? I don't know which one is Sailesh. He thought, I don't have much time. Sailesh was standing there like this, So then Yamaraj, he's one of the Mahajans, one of the 12 authorities on devotional service. He's very intelligent, so he had an idea. So he said, just look at the workmanship on these sculptures. They're terrible. They don't look very lifelike at all. I've seen, better work from children. These are just useless. So then the man, out of his pride, he said, what do you mean these are useless? I'm one of the best sculptors in the land. And then Yamaraj said, thank you very much. You're coming with me. So like this, he tried to cheat death, but it wasn't possible. Death, like they say, there was 2 things you cannot escape in life. Do you know what they are? Death and taxes, yeah. I would like to say another one, add a third one, which is roadworks. So annoying, aren't they? They have those 50 mile an hour, average speed cameras, and you never see them actually doing any roadworks. They just have the cones up. You never see anyone doing any roadworks. They're just there just to annoy you. So these things, you cannot escape from death, taxation and roadworks. That's mine. So therefore, Prahlad Maharaj, he said, we have to practice Krishna consciousness now. We have to start. And in the purport, Prabhupada actually says One should practice Krishna consciousness from the very beginning of life. So I'm going to ask a question now, so I want to see a show of hands. Who here has practiced Krishna consciousness from the very beginning of life? None of us. So you might think that's a little bit kind of, how do you say, it's a bit, what's the word? Alarming or a bit worrying. We've not practiced Krishna consciousness from the very beginning of life. And Prabhupada says that it is not possible to remember Krishna if one has not practiced throughout his life, and you should practice from the very beginning of life. But there was another point where in another purport, I don't remember where it is just now to find it, but Prabhupada says, or at least from understanding the time of its urgency, how urgent it is to be Krishna conscious. So when we come to Krishna consciousness, when we take initiation into spiritual life, then it's described as a second birth. It's our second birth. So okay, it doesn't matter what we've done before we come to Krishna consciousness, you can't do anything about that. But when we come to Krishna consciousness, when we get this knowledge, then we should take it seriously. Therefore, Chanakya Pandit, he says that if one wants to enjoy oneself, one should think, I will live forever. Because that is the kind of mentality, isn't it? We just kind of, if you really want to enjoy life, if you think about you're going to have to die, it kind of puts a bit of a downer on things, doesn't it? You know? Therefore, sometimes when people are given notice of like a terminal illness, to start with, they're very shocked. And then after they're shocked, then they start to go into some kind of bitterness, and they feel resentful. Why me? I was a good person. You know? Why did I have to get this illness? We start to become resentful, we start to become bitter. You know? Because we want to enjoy ourselves. So Chanakya Pandit says, if you want to enjoy your senses, then you should think, I will live forever. But if you want self-realization, if you want to be Krishna conscious, you should think, I may die today. Now this might sound a little bit morbid, you know, in the sense that we're just stressing on this death, but seeing as we're all going to have to face this final exam, at least we should think about it. Because death can come at any moment. Padam, padam, yat vipadam latesham. There's danger in this world at every step. Just think of these poor people in Grenfell Tower. You know, they went to bed one night, you know, as normal, and then many of them they didn't wake up the next morning, or they woke up and they're in towering inferno. So, you know, it's a tragic event, but actually, we're all going to have to leave this body at some point. Parikshit Maharaj, he knew that he had 7 days to live. But we can't even say that we've got 7 minutes to live. Who can say it? Can you say that you have 7 minutes to live, Dr. Saxena? No. I can't say. None of us here can say we've got even 7 minutes to live. Death can come at any moment. So therefore we have to practice it from the beginning of life, or at least from understanding the time of its urgency. And therefore, the easiest way to do that, like we said, is to constantly, incessantly chant the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now, all this talk about death, it's like, it's fearful, isn't it? But actually, for a devotee of Krishna, it is said that they are Abhay Charan. They're fearless because they've taken shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. Because there's no fear of death for a devotee. Prabhupada gives the example of like, if you have a cat, how does a cat carry its kittens? In its mouth. And how does a cat catch a mouse? In the same jaws. Now when the kitten is in the jaws of its mother, does it feel fearful? No, it feels protected, it feels safe. How does the mouse feel when it's in the same jaws of the cat? It's fearing for its life, it's not feeling safe and protected. So therefore for the non-devotee, they're like the mouse. They're feeling fearful because they don't know what's going to happen after death. But for a devotee, they feel safe and secure like the kitten in the mouth of the mother, because they know at the time of death, in this lifetime I'm going to serve Krishna, and in my next lifetime I serve Krishna. And if I remember Krishna at the time of death, then I going back to Krishna. How do we know this? Krishna says, of this there is no doubt. He says, Yati nasyatra samshaya. Of this there is no doubt. So if Krishna is saying there's no doubt, you're going to be assured there's no doubt. Krishna is the Supreme Lord. He gives that promise. But this is the last point we want to touch on. Prabhupada says there may be so many impediments for a person who is chanting Hare Krishna. So I want to ask the audience now, what impediments do we face when we're chanting Hare Krishna?
Time restrictions?
Time restrictions, yeah. Especially if you're a mother. You know, you've got 2 young boys keeping you on your toes all the time. There's not enough hours in the day. Time restrictions, that's one impediment. What's another impediment when we're chanting Hare Krishna?
Old memories.
Old memories, yeah. Who's ever found that before, that you've been chanting Hare Krishna and then all of a sudden, then you suddenly think back to, a memory when you were 5 years old or something like that. Who's ever thought back to a memory when you think, I wish I hadn't have done that, Have you ever found yourself sometimes you think, if only I'd done that, like 20 years ago. What difference is it going to make, So old memories, things that come up in the mind, time. What other impediments do we face? Dr. Saxena.
Unwanted distractions.
Unwanted distractions. Who can name some distractions that we're faced with in this age? Mobile phones. Let's be more specific. WhatsApp. Sorry? Oh, you're laughing, yeah. Okay, Facebook, WhatsApp. Actually, you know what? I always I'm not on Facebook, I have to say. And but now that ISKCON Newcastle is on Facebook, I'm always looking at my wife's phone. Hey, can I have a look on Facebook? I want to see if we've got any more people who've liked us on Facebook. Or I want to see how many people are following us, how many people have tuned into this lecture. So, so many distractions. Television, Facebook, WhatsApp. What other impediments are there facing us in Krishna consciousness? Laziness, yeah. In this age of Kali, it's said that we're quarrelsome, we're misguided, we're lazy, and above all, always disturbed. Who just thinks sometimes I just can't be bothered? Yeah. Who finds it hard to get out of bed? I find it so hard. When I used to live in the ashram, I used to get up at 1:45 in the morning. I would go to bed, albeit at 7:45, and I would put the alarm on the other side of the room, and I would hear it as soon as it just made one beep. It didn't even have to go to the beep, 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 beep. I'd just hear the beep, and I'd immediately wake up, I'd switch the alarm off, I'd get up. But nowadays I'm finding it so hard to get up. You have to make sure you go to bed on time, one thing. Okay, so laziness. What else? What other impediments are there when we're chanting? Sorry?
The mind travels everywhere while chanting.
The mind travels everywhere. We just can't focus. We're chanting Hare Krishna and we're thinking of everything else under the sun. Some devotees, they even sit there with a notebook. They get all their best ideas during japa. Hare Krishna. And you're writing it down. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Like this. Yeah, the mind's going here, there, and everywhere. What other impediments are there when we're chanting Hare Krishna?
The body being too tired or too hungry.
Yeah, the body's
distracted by what's going on.
Yeah. The body's always, the body's aching. We're sitting down and then the legs start aching. You have to start walking up and down. And then you start feeling dizzy. You're tired. The body, the mind. What other impediments do we face when we're chanting Hare Krishna? We could be here all night, actually. We could be here all night. But the point is, Prabhupada says, nonetheless, tolerating all these impediments, one should continue to chant. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And there's a particular verse which is mentioned, which is the formula for perfect chanting. We've just said there are many impediments. So how do we practice perfect chanting? Well, there's a formula for success. Trinadapi sanichana tarorapi sahishnana amanina manidena kirtanaya sarahari. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respects unto others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. So there are,
and expecting no respect back in return as well.
that's right, yeah. So thank you. So there are 4 main qualities that are mentioned in that verse. So one of them is tolerance. We have to be tolerant. So if the mind is saying, I don't want to get out of bed, you just have to tolerate it. You know, you don't have to pay attention to it, but you have to tolerate it. Just like when you go to the supermarket, if you've got a young child, what does the child do as you're going around the supermarket aisles? Mum, I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that, I want this. You just have to tolerate it. You don't pay any attention to it. You know, you can't, because you can't give the child everything it wants, because you spoil the child. And therefore they're going to grow up to be a spoiled brat who thinks they can get everything their way. You have to say, no, you can't have it. You know? Or perhaps, okay, if you're a good boy, I'll get you one of the things at the end of the week, you know? And then they say, but I want this now. And you say, no, I gave you this, so you can't have that, you know? You just have to tolerate it. You know, but you don't say to them necessarily, no, because that makes it even worse. You have to treat them, you know, you have to be a little bit diplomatic. You say, okay, well, yeah, you know, if you're a good boy or if you behave yourself, perhaps later on at the end of the day, and then they'll forget about it, you know. A lot of the time they don't. They'll say, you promised. So with the mind, when the mind's saying, I want to go back to sleep, you don't fight with the mind. Don't say, no, you can't, you have to get up. You just say, okay, well, we'll just get up now. We'll chant our rounds, and then we'll go back to sleep afterwards. Is that okay? And the mind says, oh, all right, that sounds okay. So then you get up and you chant your rounds, and then it'll say, can we go back to sleep now? And you say, well, listen, let's just read a few verses from the Bhagavad Gita first, then we'll do it. And then the mind will say, all right, I can do that, yeah, no problem. And then you read a few, and it says, now go back to sleep. You say, well, listen, let's just offer something to Krishna. Let's prepare some breakfast and offer it to Krishna. And then eventually the mind kind of becomes your friend, you see? The mind is either the worst enemy or the best friend. So you don't fight with the mind, you just you just tolerate it. Okay, it's all right, no problem, no problem. We'll do all that later. And you just carry on practicing. So tolerant, we have to be tolerant like a tree. And we have to be humble like a blade of grass, like a straw in the street. We have to be humble. And we have to be ready to offer all respect unto others and not expect any respect for ourselves. These are the 4 things. Tolerant, humble, offering respects to everyone, but don't expect any respect for yourself. We're generally the other way around, speaking personally, you know. It's more like, I want all respect for me, but I'm not going to give anyone else any respect. I'm not tolerant at all, and I'm not very humble, you know. We're like the opposite of these things, speaking personally. And therefore we wonder why it's hard to chant Hare Krishna. But actually, I'll let you into a secret. It's a fact that in order to be able to chant Hare Krishna perfectly, we have to have these 4 qualities. But if you just chant Hare Krishna anyway, you will develop those 4 qualities. So don't worry, don't think, well, I have to wait till I've got those 4 qualities till I can chant Hare Krishna. No, you just chant anyway. And you'll become purified, and you will develop the good qualities. But we have to constantly, incessantly chant the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And if we constantly, incessantly chant the holy name throughout our life, then at the time of death, whether it's 7 seconds, 7 minutes, 7 days, 7 months, 7 years, 7 decades, we will remember Krishna at the time of death and we will go back home, back to God. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai. Hare Krishna Maha Mantra ki jai. Nitai Gaura Pramanande. So, we'll ask, does anyone have any reflections? Something that they've heard in the class that they're going to take away with them? Something that they've remembered that they'd like to share with all of us? Anyone have any reflections? Dr. Saxena.
How many person succeeds if they are proper devotees to attain this?
Sorry, is that a question or was that a reflection?
No, it's just question.
Okay, we'll do questions in a minute. First, I want some reflections. That's something that you've heard in the class that you remember that you're going to take away with them. So if someone says, "Hey, what was that guy speaking about tonight?" You say, "This."
Constantly, incessantly chant Hare Krishna.
Constantly, incessantly chant the Maha Mantra. Yes, very good. Any other reflections? Something you're going to take away with you tonight from the class. Always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. Yes, good. Any other reflections?
Be tolerant with our mind.
Be tolerant with the mind. Yeah. Don't fight with the minds. Just, okay, no problem. Yeah, good. Be tolerant with the minds. Don't entertain the minds. Thanks, Antonella. Any other reflections?
When you remember Krishna at the time of death, you join Krishna.
If you remember Krishna at the time of death, and when is death going to come? Any time. So therefore we should practice now. Good. Any other reflections? It's good to do reflections. We'll do your question in a second, because otherwise what happens is sometimes we go out of the class and we don't remember anything. But when we speak about our reflections, then it helps us. Bashir?
Nothing is lost on our spiritual progress.
Nothing is lost.
Spiritual thing we do.
Yes, because we were talking about life insurance. That's a good point. We were talking about in life insurance that we save money so at the time of death we can give our wealth to our children, because we cannot take our wealth with us. But in Krishna consciousness we do take our wealth with us, because we know that the greatest treasure is devotional service to Krishna and chanting the holy name. And in our next life we will take that with us. So nothing is lost. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so we'll now just ask for a couple of questions. So your question was, Dr. Saxena?
How many roughly percentage people, those who are proper devotees, succeed in getting this goal?
How many devotees succeed in remembering Krishna at the time of death? Well, it is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam that there's the Tripad Vibhuti and there's the Ekapad Vibhuti. So the material world is described as the Ekapad Vibhuti, which means that we are 1/4 of the entire creation, spiritual and material. And then there's the Tripad Vibhuti, which means 3/4. So therefore most of the living entities are in this material world. So we're asking about who's successful. Well, we're unsuccessful because we're here in this material world. We're just a very small percentage. Actually described that 10% of the living entities are in the material world and 90% of the living entities are in the spiritual world. But yeah, there are many examples in Krishna consciousness of devotees that have remembered Krishna at the time of death and they've gone back home, back to Godhead. Many examples. And not just like big devotees, but I'll just give you a little example of my spiritual master's mother. So my spiritual master's Indradumna Swami, his mother was an atheist and she was a scientist. So throughout Indradumna Swami's devotional life, he would send her Back to Godhead magazine, Bhagavad Gita, and every time he would ring her up, she would start debating with him and trying to defeat the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. But then what happened was, one day, she rang him up, like really early in the morning, like 2 o'clock in the morning, and she said, "Brian," that's his non-devotional name, "Brian, I want to go to Vrindavan." And he said, "Mum, can you, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, can you maybe give me a ring in a few hours or something, And then she said, "Okay." And the phone. So then in the morning, some hours later, then my spiritual master, he ran home, and then his brother answered the phone. And Indradumna Swami said, "Okay, can I speak to Mum?" And then there was a silence. And then the brother said, "Mum died, about an hour ago." And he said, "What do you mean? She died about an hour ago?" What? And he said, "Yeah, she didn't tell you, but actually she was diagnosed with cancer 6 months ago." And he said, "Well, why didn't I know? Why didn't she ever tell me?" And he said, "No, she didn't want to trouble you. But do you know what? At the time of death, what had happened was when she got diagnosed with cancer, one day she was just sitting there in the garden. She said, "Do you know what? It just doesn't make sense that when I die, that's it. It just doesn't make sense. Go and get me that Bhagavad Gita from the garage, you know." So she got the Bhagavad Gita out and she dusted it off and she started reading it. And within the last 6 months of her life, she read Bhagavad Gita 9 times. And she'd highlighted it and she'd written things in it, asked Brian about this, and she was listening to lectures every day, and she studied the Bhagavad Gita. And at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that those who study this sacred conversation of ours, they worship me with their intelligence. And she was a very intelligent lady. She studied it 9 times. So at the time of death, her other son was crying. And then she said to her son, she said, "Do not lament for me. I am not this body. I am spirit soul. I am going to Krishna." And as she said Krishna, she left her body. So she just chanted Krishna's name at the time of death, and therefore she went back home, back to Godhead. So this is just one example. This was someone who hadn't even practiced Krishna consciousness throughout their life. But in the last 6 months, when death reared its head, she got in the fast lane, so to speak. So, like Krishna says, of this there is no doubt. So there are many examples of devotees who have become successful by remembering Krishna at the time of death. But the question is, are you going to be successful? Am I going to be successful? It doesn't matter what others have done. Of course, we become inspired when we see them. But Prabhupada said, at the time of death, we have to fly our own plane. We can't rely on anyone else. You can't rely on your spiritual master. In one sense, you do rely on your spiritual master because you're praying to him for mercy, that please help me to remember Krishna. But in other words, it's up to us. We have to make the endeavour. Is that okay? Does that answer your question, Dr. Saxon? Okay. So, I think we'll stop there now, and we're going to do a little bit more chanting, constant, incessant chanting of the Maha Mantra. I was going to ask, actually, Vishil. Anyone know where Vishil went? I was going to ask Vishil to come and lead the kirtan. Try and just go and see if you can find Vishil for me. So you can carry on sitting down if you like, or at some point if you feel that you want to stand up and chant Hare Krishna, you can do so. And we'll do some chanting for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then we're going to serve Prasad. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki, Nitai Gauraprana. Actually, perhaps just while we're waiting for Shil, we'll see if anyone has any. Is he coming?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to ask for Shil to come and lead the kirtan. Shil, maybe you can go until like 10 past 15 minutes. Hare